Reploids. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Ramblin Reploids. My name is Coleman X, and as always, I am joined with my partner...
Twitch from Reploid Revo. How's it going, everybody?
And thank you for coming, Twitch, and everyone watching.
Of course, I'm happy to be here, and I hope you guys are too. We have a pretty interesting topic today.
Indeed. It was suggested by, I guess, newly upgraded channel member, Dunno, as in, I dunno. So, thank you for the... It is! But, thanks for the suggestion, and for the support. And the episode he wanted to see was talking about all the different designs for Zero. There have been several. Now that we've actually put this on a list, there's actually a lot.
Yeah, I didn't think there'd be too much to talk about, but then as I started listing them off, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah. So, let's just jump right into it. Twitch, bring us in.
Alrighty, so I'm kind of excited to talk about this, because I haven't really had a chance to mention this at all, especially because, like, a lot of my videos focus on, like, canon stuff, things that are already established, so I don't really get to dabble into, like, the concept art side of things. But there's some really interesting things that are going on in here. For instance, when Mega Man X was being developed, the basic mission statement was Mega Man, but in the future, which I know sounds redundant, but it's like, you know, the future of the future, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they were doing this, there were designs being made for Mega Man that were closer to Mega Man than you would think. I know everyone has heard that story about how when Keiji Inafune was designing Mega Man X, he basically made him look like Zero, and everyone was like, well, this is a good design, but it's not enough like Mega Man. No one's going to look at this and say, oh, that's Mega Man. But if you actually look at the process for like what characters, what designs they were starting with, it really did actually start very close to Mega Man, and then got a little bit crazier till it reached Zero, and then they kind of like pulled it back, and that's how we ended up with the current design for Mega Man X. So it's really interesting to see how, like, it was kind of like a roller coaster. Like, they kind of peaked at Zero, and then, like, you know, went back down the hill back towards, like, conventional Mega Man designs. And so one of the first couple of designs for Mega Man X, which is technically kind of like Zero, because you could see a bunch of his design elements actually starting to appear here, is something that I affectionately refer to as Cashern Zero, or Cashern X. Basically, what you have here is a version of Mega Man who has a belt, a really tall popped collar, he's got wings on the sides of his ears that are very similar to the kind of like spikies that you will eventually see on Zero's helmet. It's actually pretty cool. Like I said, you can kind of see the beginnings of, you know, this sort of Zero design. He even has like a triangle forehead gem, which is what Zero has. Mm-hmm. So you could really see that, you know, first, you know, sort of thing coming through. Another thing that it's kind of interesting, which I don't know if this is intentional or if I'm reading too far into it, but he has his fist over here, and the fist on the forearm has like a little power indicator, kind of like, yeah, you know, like a Mega Buster would have. But his Mega Buster is on the other arm already, so does that mean that he could have like a double Mega Buster like Zero would eventually have? You know, who knows? I don't know. I could be, like I said, it could be reading too far into this.
Yeah.
But this very first design is pretty much what I call Cashern X or Cashern Zero, because it's quite literally just Cashern. I'll have to definitely have you insert a picture of Cashern so you can see what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
He literally has Cashern's logo on his like chest there. So, and the popped collar is very much a Cashern kind of staple sort of thing going on. Yeah. And then they started getting a little further away from that, and you can see that it's starting to look more and more like a Mega Man X character. You've got the chest plate, you've got like the segmented, you know, parts, you've got some more detail going on in the character. Still has like the Mega Man squishy boots though. But on the ears, you can see that they still have that sort of like wing upwards flare kind of spike thing going on. I'm going to say the one on the left here is probably like if they seriously designed Casshern X and decided to not make him a blatant homage to Casshern.
Yeah.
And then the one on the right is closer to like Mega Man X himself. In all three of these, you can actually look at the helmet and you can see how there's sort of this neat idea of like there's the central forehead gem, and then there's like a pointed trim that kind of meets at like the center of the eyebrows, which Mega Man X would eventually go on to have. It's kind of like the light blue parts on top of the dark blue parts of Mega Man X's helmet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat how like that was the direction they were going in. But it's kind of cool that you can see these inspirations for what Zero would eventually become down the line. So I don't know. It's kind of neat that they started doing that.
One thing that's really interesting on this design here is you can kind of see eventually what would be Zero's like chest grill on it.
Oh, I never noticed that. Yeah.
So it's like way later on, it's like after he came back in X2, they're like, oh hey, remember that cool chest grill? Let's bring it back.
Feels like they were hanging on to like all their good ideas and then like looked back through their previous designs to like slap them together,
Mm-hmm.
And to make something good.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but since the beginning, he was intended to have been Wily's creation, right? It was from that design document.
Right? The thing is, I don't know when that design document was created, so I think for Mega Man X1, it really was just supposed to be Mega Man on his own without Zero.
Okay.
And then once X2 rolled around, they decided they were like, oh, you know what? We should bring back that Zero character, and we'll do something with him, because obviously he was a fan favorite, and he was, super cool, and people liked the design, and ultimately I think that really was probably the best decision, because, boy, they've been riding that, that Zero hype train for years.
As we'll see.
Yeah, as we'll see.
But I find it interesting that the first couple of designs here, like he's got the Zero spikes on the side, and it looks like Dr. Wily's hair.
Yeah. I wonder if that's
so weird.
Is that just like a thing Dr. Wily does? Because between like Zero and Base, he has like a lot of robots that have.
Oh yeah, I never thought about
vaguely in the shape of his iconic hair.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. I'm just saying.
Okay, all right. So
you'll even see this if you look at Serges or Serges, whatever you want to call them, in the X Hunters. He kind of has like Wily's spiky hair.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wily really likes that hair of his.
and Isaac has the mustache and sort of the hair going. So he
has like the King of the Cosmos cylinder thing. The Katamari Damacy, King of all creation, or whatever his name is. And I think I gotta ask Bonus Level, but I'm pretty sure she did a drawing of that at some point. I don't know. If she did, we'll insert it here probably.
Perfect.
I'll tell you later, hon.
But yeah. So the next one. We had a bit of a technical difficulty earlier, so
yeah,
you want to
bad.
bring us into Shield Zero?
Yeah, so this next one is also pretty cool. I like to call this one Shield Zero because he's got like a wrist-mounted shield thing. And what's interesting here is that you can really see a lot of the Zero influence in this one. Like, he really looks like Zero.
Yeah,
except
that stern face.
He's got the stern face, he's got the Z on his chest. He's got a lot of the same design elements that we would eventually find in Zero, but strangely, he doesn't have, like, the helmet fins. So, it's interesting that this character can still look like Zero, despite the fact that he doesn't have one of the thing that makes Zero's helmet so iconic. Looking closely, you can see that he even has, like, a scarf. As well as long hair.
Scarf and hair, yeah.
Like, that's a little... Come on, Inafune, just...
Well, maybe it's not a scarf. Maybe it's a long, like, hair tie, that flaps in the wind.
Maybe, but I just think there's a little too much flowing stuff going on.
Yeah, definitely.
That would have been, like, an animation nightmare.
God, you know what I just noticed? Like, looking at this design, this is skipping ahead quite a bit, but Via, or Euro, or Blue Zero from Dive, has a lot of the same design elements. Like the triangles going down the feet, or down the legs.
Oh!
And he's got the gems on the shoulders.
Yo! That's crazy, you're blowing my mind right now.
That's what I'm here for.
Oh man, now that is some quality theory crafting.
Yep.
That's some pretty. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at the two of them, and when we get to him, I want to put these guys up side by side, and so you can see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah,
that's actually really neat.
I had to point it out before it escaped me, because I was just looking at his shoulders. I'm like, those look so familiar.
Yo, yeah, that's actually a very good observation. I didn't even think of that. One other thing I wanted to point out, just because it's funny to me, is he has a shield on his arm, but can I just say that's a really pathetic looking shield?
It's got to be very precise.
It just, yeah, I know, it just doesn't look very useful.
I
don't know.
In the canon of the world, it's the remake of the King Shield, because it's got a little crown on it.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. It's got like a little like pointy thing. Like, I feel like Inafune was just drawing shapes on the thing at that point to see what looked good.
Inafune knew who his golden goose was going to be, so he gave him a king crown, just as a little.
He's
something.
Like, listen, you guys think I'm crazy, but trust me, this is gonna do it. Yeah, but yeah, it's cool. Like, you could even see some of the later Zero design elements there. He has like the hinged ankles. He has the white shoulder, excuse me, not shoulder. Well, I guess the shoulders are probably white. The white knee pads, the triangle things on the knees. I don't know, it's kind of cool. And the shield is very vaguely reminiscent of his square shoulders.
And the legs have those little circular things on the ankles. And version 1.0 doesn't have that, but version 2.0 does. So
yeah, it's really interesting seeing how all this stuff, kind of shows up. I also think it's interesting that his ears are not like regular Mega Man cups.
Oh, yeah.
They're like solid over. I don't know, it's kind of interesting how he did that. You don't really see too many characters that use that.
And he's got the Proto Man thing where he doesn't have underwear, he just has like a belt.
Yeah, and that's like a thing that Vile would eventually do.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I always like that because it kind of makes them look like they're wearing like military pants, as we'll see with like Sigma designs and stuff. I don't know, that's kind of cool. But so moving on from Shield Zero, because I don't want to linger on him too far. I like to call this one Beta Zero, which doesn't mean that he's like a beta male. What I mean is,
it's a lot closer.
It's a lot closer to Final X10. If you look at him, it looks like X10 minus like the boob lights, which I have to wonder how far into development the boob lights were added, because looking at all the concept art, they're nowhere to be found, and then all of a sudden X10 just has the boob lights. So I don't know what's going on with that. But you can see he has actually a really cool looking ear design, which is like, a dome as opposed to like a cup, which I really like. The helmet shape is identical to Final Zero. The forehead gem is really big, but I think that's huge. Actually just how he drew those back then. I don't know. Depending on the artist, the forehead gem kind of changes shape a lot. And then, my favorite part of this entire design, he has a Vulcan on the top of it. By Vulcan, I mean like a Vulcan cannon, like a Gatling gun. Like a Gundam. He has like a machine gun in the top of his head. That's crazy! Are you telling me he could just stare at you and shoot, like, machine gun bullets? Like, what is happening?
It's the next closest thing to laser eyes.
Yeah, it really is. He's like, oh, if I can't have, laser eyes, I'll just stick a machine gun on my scalp.
I'm trying to decide if he has like a beard or a chin strap. Because
I think it's a chin strap.
Yeah, he's kind of got that base thing going, because base has the helmet that goes all the way down. But it's weird that you can see where his helmet ends, and then that's just under it. It's like a
maybe that's
like
part of like his neck, like the neck covering.
It could be like how Proto Man wears sunglasses under his sunglasses. He wears like a helmet under his helmet.
Yeah, that's very possible. We also see here the first mention of Zero's shoulder logo. Although it is not a Z, strangely enough. It's like a weird Y thing. I think if you actually look at some of the previous concept sketches, I think like that was like a bad guy logo or something. That like if you look at early versions of Sigma, he has the same logo. So it makes me wonder, like, was that supposed to be like a Maverick Hunter logo? You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't say it's a Maverick logo, because Zero was, I think, always intended to be a good guy. But Sigma is definitely like someone who betrays the Maverick Hunters. So I think that might be like an old Maverick Hunter logo, just as like,
that was going to be my guess.
Just as a guess, because Zero has it on his shoulder.
Yeah.
But I think they made the wise decision of upgrading him to his much cooler, stylized Z sparkly, logo thing that he has. It's pretty neat. I kind of like that. But yeah, a lot of Zero staples are here. His toe attacker is right there.
Took it right from me. I was waiting on a break. His iconic toe attacker and his wire arm.
His iconic toe attackers are right there.
I kind of like that Buster design. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I do like that Buster design. It reminds me of X from Mega X and Ruby Spears.
Yeah, they should bring that Buster design into Dive. Just because there's so many, like, kind of...
Just call it, like, the Ruby Buster?
Yeah, well, because there's so many, quote-unquote generic weapons.
Right.
Just use that as just a cool Buster design.
Yeah, just a little, little nod. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, a lot of Zero's iconic features are all here. He's got the hair, got the ball shoulders, he's got, like, the same wrist guards that he's supposed to have. He has the two lines on, like, the jaw protector on the helmet. Those two lines are there. He has what looks like the stomach protector, but it's like a square right in the center.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, coming up to form abs. Like Saiyan armor. I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's very close to the final Zero.
I really like that the part behind his hand was supposed to have a function. Like
a
instead of
grappling
just
hook
being
or something. That's what I
being
imagine.
a piece of armor. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
It's really cool. All the stuff they were trying to think, that he would eventually have.
Yeah, they gave that one to Boob Eyes.
Yeah, they did. They decided, Boob Eyes, you're cool enough that you get to inherit one of Zero's powers. and Boob Eyes boobled happily, and then...
Toe attacker seems kind of like a Vile thing, like how he's got the knee, the knee cannon.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The toe attacker totally seems like that would be a thing. I could see that. Toe attacker would probably... I wonder why they call it, like, toe attack. Like, isn't that just called a kick? Like, what are you guys talking about?
Well, maybe the section part bends forward and there's a little gun in there.
Imagine. Well, I mean, hell, they put a gun on his head, so...
Exactly, like, in case his head gets blown off, he can still go down kicking.
Yeah, I know. So, normally I would continue on to the rest of the concept arts, but I think it would be prudent to actually talk about, like, final vanilla X10, and then we can jump back to the concept for, like, version 2.0.
Yes.
Because from then on, it's all finished designs. So we're just going to do one little jump back, and then we're going to keep on going forward.
Yep.
So as I said, you can see in Vulcan Zero, I guess I'll call him, or Toe Attack Zero, whatever. It's almost identical to Final Zero. They swapped out the Maverick Hunter logo and gave him that really cool Z logo, which has become like his iconic, thing. They gave him like an ab protector, like armor or something, and they added boob lights.
Gotta have boob lights.
You can't have Zero without boob lights. That's why I think Mega Man Zero is sacrilegious and not a true Zero.
Yeah, he just has those band-aids over his nipples.
But yeah, he's got the band. Like, what are you doing? Is this some sort of like lewd manga? Get out of here with those band-aids over your chest. Come on, man. Get with the the program. Got to get yourself some boob lights, otherwise you're just not a real man.
Yeah.
It would seem they got rid of the wire arm, like, because if you look at the previous one, it has like a pointed triangle thing.
Like Zero version
gone.
2.
Yeah, it's gone from X10, but comes back in X20, which is really cool. The toe attack is still intact. That was a fun sentence to say.
I mean, you've never seen him use it, but they never said that he couldn't,
Yeah, you never know. Maybe Zero actually has like a trick up his toe,
Yeah, no, that's how he defeated Vile's right armor. You know, you think he's self-destructed from the chest, but in fact he's just putting his toes into his back and shooting until everybody
just
explodes.
Kicked him really hard. That's what happened. And then regarding his Buster, they moved away from that really cool one from the previous design, which honestly I think was good enough for like a final. And then they gave him the Buster that he has in the final, which is like X's Buster for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still really confused about that, but you know what? That is an entirely different discussion. It looks good on Zero.
Yes.
For some reason, it just works, and I'm not going to argue it, you know?
It's weird that in X1, it's silver instead of white, and in Maverick Hunter, it's white. So,
well, in the game sprites, it's actually an identical sprite.
Right.
I have layered them on top of one another, but if you have the D-Arts figures, the D-Arts figure gives them a silver one, and
this little concept art here is silver color, or I guess final art.
Well, I can't even tell, to be honest. I mean, maybe it is. Let me, hang on. I have a picture of X and Zero standing right next to each other with that Buster out, so let's actually compare. Compare and contrast, class.
Like, even the Tamashi Buddies little statue thingy.
Oh, yeah.
Is, Zero's is silver. Like that's one thing I wanted out of Maverick Hunter. Is, like, you know, if you got the Buster from Zero, it would have just had the silver instead of the white. Just a little bitty difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did it right by at least making the Buster function different.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get like a zero charge shot, which is pretty cool.
I love that. But man, you gotta go way out of your way to get it. But it's worth. I think it's worth it. It's super fun. But I really like this design. It's simpler, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really do like X10. He's just got a good look to him. I can definitely see the quote-unquote Mega Man influences.
Mm-hmm.
He's very streamlined. I really like the way he looks. He looks very good. He's not as bulky as later versions of Zero would be. Not that it's bad. But there's a certain elegance to X10 that I really like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good stuff. Like you said, the Buster works really good on both characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just like it. That was the first Zero I ever saw, you know. And he's got a face on his chest, you know, like other famous characters. And you know, it's cool. It's fine. Where's Tidy Whities? He's ready.
He is ready. His Tidy Whities will become an integral part of his design later. He will later upgrade from Tidy Whities to even tighter Whities. He gets his Mega Man Zero thong.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say on Zero version 2, he's got just a little bitty yellow mark on it. You know, be careful, Zero. I know hunting's hard, but so is hygiene.
That's the whatchamacallit, that's the Calvin Klein tag.
Let's move away from the underwear.
Yeah, let's move away from the underwear and let's move on to Zero version 2.
Yeah, let's get some of these beta designs.
There's not too much to go on because Zero version 2 is like, in the concept art anyway, is very close to the final.
Mm-hmm. Very.
It seems that they took all of the best aspects of their unused Zero designs previously, and then mashed them all together onto this one. So they kept Zero's basic design, but they added the iconic square shoulder pads, which are more angular in this design, which I kind of like. And you'll notice they actually have a kanji on them, and that's just the kanji for Zero. So instead of like a Z, it's literally just the kanji for Zero.
Well, he's got the Z on the other shoulder.
Oh yeah, so he's got it on both. Just in case you were confused about who he is.
The spike on his hand, it extends longer. Like he could use it to really do some damage.
Yeah, I was always like wondering, like, is that supposed to be like a wrist guard, or is it like a spike to punch things? I don't know.
This one looks like a puncher.
The wire grapple came back, guys.
Aha.
And
I think the kind of idea here was, what if Zero got all the capsules? You know, because he's got like trim now.
Right, that's what I would think.
And this Buster is completely original.
Mm-hmm. It looks like the one from the previous concept.
Mm-hmm. It's got the little circle thing from the X1 Zero Buster.
Yeah, they did keep that, and I guess to give it like a hinge because it looks good.
Yeah. It kind of looks like all of these Busters just kind of meshed into one. You know what I mean?
Right. And there's one thing I kind of wish they did keep, but they didn't, is on the backs of his shoulders, instead of it just being plain white, he has like little downward pointing triangles.
That's how you know how to put him on. You know, like in X2, you got to put him back together. It's like, oh, which way did these go? Oh, follow the arrows.
This way down.
You did it.
But yeah, he's back and he looks really cool. Aside from the Buster and the Kanji, if you were to just change those to like their eventual vanilla counterparts, like nothing is different. He's almost identical. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of, I guess we'll move on to X2 Zero, who, yeah, is essentially just that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't really changed a whole lot. It looks like they got rid of that, like, central bar that was going across the top of the Buster, and it's more like, it's more just like a circular Buster.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have the thing. It's very simple. It's just like a round red and silver Buster with some gold trim.
Yeah, you never really get a good look at this Buster aside from this one picture here.
Mm-hmm.
Even,
it's true.
Even that, like, you don't see what the other side looks like, you know, because it could have some neat details on it, but...
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, they did keep that bar, but...
Yeah, it does look a lot like the, like that concept one, now that I'm in a good look at both of them right next to each other.
The only thing, oh, I just noticed he even has, like, the white circles for the joint on the elbow.
Mm-hmm.
I never noticed that those were white before. The only other thing I wanted to mention, since we're on this topic, is that the X2 Buster for Zero seems to be the sprite that Zero has in X3 when you play as him.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense to me, because in X3, which I'll just pull this up, because the only difference between X2 Zero and X3 Zero is literally the Buster and nothing else.
Yep.
And I guess a slight change in art style.
I love the X3 art style.
I love the X3 art style too. It's really good.
It's really good.
They changed his Buster, but when you play the game, he still uses the X2 Buster sprite, which is weird because they redrew all of Zero's sprites. So why is the Buster not changed?
It must have been a late change.
It must be. I don't know, because the artwork is drawn and has this really awesome looking Buster, which is eventually going to be the Buster they use in all future artwork of Zero using his Buster.
Mm-hmm.
But in the games, every single sprite that he uses is using the one from X2. And in X5, when you use his Buster in-game, it's the X2 Buster, if you look at the sprite, but then in all of the cutscenes, it's the X3 Buster. So does he have both, or what's going on?
Oh, I've never noticed the sprite thing. Like, it's the normal, like, X3 Buster in X6, isn't it?
Yeah, if you play X6, it's the X3 Buster again.
I need to see this.
Yeah, I'll pull up a reference right now, as a matter of fact. I think this falls under... I'm on Sprites Inc. You guys should go to Sprites Inc., by the way, if anyone's listening. They have, like,
I hope someone's listening.
Selection. I mean, I would hope so, too, you know? But, let me see. I think it falls under Zero's techniques. Okay, yeah, here we go. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this, and you can open this up in your own little browser, and just zoom in.
Yeah.
That's X5 using the X2 design. Or, I mean, I guess in theory, it could be the X3 one, because actually, now that I'm looking at it, the white circles, which would be, which look like a flat hinge on X2, These have like a little divot in the center, meaning it could be the one from X3, but we can't see the top of it clearly.
Well, the X3, the red doesn't go all the way around to the bottom. It's just that little patch on the top. And it's white, and then silver, and then yellow, then silver, then white.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, if you look at the sprites where he's lifting his arm, it's red underneath.
Yeah.
So
it's a weird combination.
Yeah, it's very strange. Like, it's almost like super generic, so like you can't quite tell.
I guess I never noticed, because who wants to use the Buster in X5? You know, X6, yes, but X5...
I always wanted to use it in X5 because I thought it was cool.
Yeah, well, I
fully admit how useless it is.
Yeah, when I first played it, I'm like, dude, the Buster's back? I love the Buster, you know, and it sucks, but... Yep. You know, it's not worth trading the 4th armor for, but still, it's the Z-Buster.
Exactly. And then if you look at the...
Do you have the X6 one?
Yeah, those are the X6 sprites, and if you look, it is very clearly the one shown in X3.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Like, very clearly. And so that just confuses me, because in all of the cutscenes in X5 where Zero uses his Buster, it's the one from X3. So it's almost like in X5 and X3, they just forgot to update what his Buster looked like.
Yeah.
Like, for the sprite, which is strange, because it's like you have all this artwork that's being made and has been made. Like, how could you guys forget this?
They must have just went back and actually looked at the X3 sprites and been like, okay, this is how we rendered it before, let's give it a little bit more detail, and boom. You know, instead of comparing it, because the mindset was probably, well, it has to be right already, you know?
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, which always confused me. And the people in my lore chat, we've all been theorizing as to how the hell this could work, and one of the theories was something like, in X5, if you pick X and Zero shows up damaged, it's the X2 Buster that's broken on the floor, or something like that, when he teleports in to be like, watch out for Sigma, or something like that.
I'd have to see that now.
Because
I know his Buster's on the floor, but...
Huh?
I know his Buster's on the floor, but I never, you know, because this whole design thing, I never noticed that it was the incorrect one.
Yeah, and so I think the idea was something like, yeah, I'm gonna put this over here so you can take a look at it. The idea is that it's the X2 Buster that's broken on the floor when you show up in the end of the intro stage, and then that's why in X6 he stops using the X2 Buster, because the X3 one is the only one that he has left. So it's almost like he has two Buster programs.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like the rationalization the lore chat on my server came up with, because honestly I cannot figure out what this is supposed to be or how it's supposed to work. I feel like it was an art error and they just kind of rolled with it.
Yeah. Well, man, now I gotta wonder, because Nightmare Zero uses the X5 sprites, so he's probably got the wrong Buster. Or, you know, quote-unquote wrong Buster.
He does, because he's literally just a recolored Zero. He literally just draws upon the same sprites as Zero. And if you go to the spritesing page for Nightmare Zero, it even shows like all the different recolors of Zero to show like what their color palettes should be. But they all use the same sprites, so there's no sense in like, you know, ripping them all.
Man, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's really wild how that worked out, and I just figured since we're going through all of the Zero designs, I may as well let everyone else get this, you know, this crazy headache that I've had ever since I noticed it.
You know, quick side note, since we're on the X5 train, did you notice that in like it's the level with the quick lasers and the Shadow Devil? You know, you see the Zero Virus flying around, but it's the X1 body design.
It's the X1 sprite, yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. I really wish
that was such a cool detail.
I wish we could actually see just a proper, you know, sprite of that. That should have been your game completion bonus. You know, it just overrides Zero sprites with the X1 design.
That would have been really cool. Something like that.
Man.
I know.
But, yeah, I love the X3 Buster. I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, X3 Buster is super cool. That is the Buster I would expect of, like, a really beefy, powered-up Zero to have, you know?
Yeah. I like how the triangle matches his titties. You know, like, it's the only... I mean, it is. It's the only real bits of green on him, and I like that.
That is very true. You know, I wonder if you'll ever get a Buster one day that has its own like little boob lights on it.
I hope so.
You know, like on the side, like a big old fish or something. I don't know. So this next section should be relatively short because again, it's basically the exact same design. But we're looking at X4 through X70. There's really not much else to say other than this is like the quote-unquote perfected Zero design. The one from X3 is technically still the same design, but there's something about the proportions and also with the way that they started drawing the saber and things like that. They really solidified what the colors of his gems are, because if you look at certain artwork, the boob lights are blue, and other artwork are kind of green. Here they really like locked it down. And have gone full-on samurai by giving Zero a beam katana shape, as opposed to the crazy crescent that he has. But that's only in the artwork, because of course in the games it's a massive crescent, which I believe is for like hit detection purposes, just because you know, it looks nice when you're playing and it's easy to tell.
Well, can we talk about how in the art it's blue and how in the games it's green? Yes,
I would love to. I actually have a fun fact about that. I think I mentioned this in one of my Who Exactly is Zero videos, where I talked about this discrepancy because it bothered me, and I was trying to figure out why the hell they would do this. So, if you look at Zero's Z-Saber, it is like a nice cyan light blue color, right? Do you know who else has a nice cyan light blue beam sword kind of weapon?
I was gonna say the Sky, but you went a little bit in a different direction. Luke Skywalker?
Yes, indeed. Luke Skywalker has a lightsaber that is roughly the same color. But then, in later iterations of the character, he actually has a green one. And the reason for this, as best I can tell, is... I don't know how true this is. I think it's true, but someone told me that it wasn't. But this is the story I'm going with. When they were shooting Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker was shown in some promotional materials using a blue lightsaber. Like, Luke Skywalker's back, he's got a blue lightsaber, he's gonna go fight Darth Vader, because red and blue were supposed to be, like, the only lightsaber colors.
Okay.
Red for bad, blue for good. That's how they were gonna do it. But then I think because in the opening sequence, Luke Skywalker uses his lightsaber a lot, and they were going to be against a clear blue sky, and so a blue lightsaber against a clear blue sky would not show up well on the screen. It would be very blendy and you wouldn't see it very well. So someone made the decision, okay, it can't be blue, change it to green, because blue on green, it makes it a lot more visible, and so that's why they changed it. So my theory is that in the artwork, you can make Zero's Z-Saber as blue as you want, it doesn't matter, it's just artwork, it's fine. But when you're playing a video game, you want his saber to be super visible, so that you can easily tell where his hitboxes are and when you're hitting things, because it's a very fast-paced kind of action platformer game, and so they didn't want any, strenuous eye exercises to tell where your saber is hitting. Yeah. If it's too light of a color, it'll be difficult to track against the bosses, which flash white every time you hit them. And so that's my theory. Of course, X6 spits in my face with that because you can get upgrades that turn it into the light blue color, but who the hell knows? I don't know. But this is something that they've carried through with every single Mega Man game that has come out since. Yeah. Zero Saber is always light blue in the artwork, and then there's always green in the games. All the way up through X8, and I think even in X-Dive it's the same thing. I don't remember for sure. Maybe X5 uses a blue saber. I'm
pretty sure it's blue.
Okay, so I guess they figured we'll make it art accurate. I know Mega Man Zero is the exception to this because they actually made it green in the artwork and in the games, so thank you for at least getting that right. But Mega Man Zero has a lot of art errors, but that is another discussion for another time. But holy crap, there are so many art errors in Mega Man Zero, and nothing is consistent.
Well, in the art for X3, when it's the one where Zero's slashing the saber, I think it shows green, blue, and white in it. If I'm not mistaken, let's see.
Let me go pull that image out. I have that saved.
Let's pull that one
here. Oh god, you're right. what the hell? It's like they couldn't make up their minds. They're like, you know what? Is it blue? Is it green? Why not both?
I guess it swings into like a spectrum, you know?
Yeah, so
but
like
in game it's just like, okay, green is easy to see, but in real life, you know, it's like how it's like how a flame is blue when it's really, really hot. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's blue on the outsides, and then it cools down as it goes in.
Yeah, maybe. Something like that. Because his is, like, white on the inside, and then it's green in, like, the middle, and then it's, like... and then it's blue on the outermost part, like, as if to emulate the intensity or something.
Man, I wish either the D-Arts or the Kotobukiya kits could have emulated just that sort of color progression. It looks really... I've always loved that art.
That's pretty cool. You know what's another thing I noticed is that the tip of his Z-Saber is, like, not correct in X3. Well, I shouldn't say it's not correct, because it came out first, but if you look at all the other versions of Zero, his Z-Saber has, like, a fat pommel. Not a pommel. That's the bottom. Has, like, a fat hilt, like a handguard.
Yeah.
Near, like, where the top of your thumb would be.
Oh, yeah,
but in X3, it's just like a stick.
X3 is more of the Star Wars influence.
Yeah, it's more like a lightsaber directly. I mean, I guess I can't blame them. That's what they were going for. So.
Mm-hmm. And then it became more of a traditional sword.
Yeah, which I personally like that better. I think I like the updated design. I think that was pretty nifty of them to do that. Yeah. So moving on from X4, I said there wasn't going to be much to say, but of course we had a lot to say. I want to take a moment to talk about X80, because this is honestly one of my favorite designs, and I don't think it gets enough credit, which is a shame. Man, it is really cool. For those who don't know, X8 slimmed down the character designs and altered them all slightly. Mm-hmm. Basically, the animators and the artists were like, if we're going to do this in 3D, we want to make the characters a little bit more slim and make them kind of like action figures so that we could do better posing with them. Which makes sense, because if you look at Zero, he actually has quite a bit of mobility to him now in his character model. I think the most impressive example of this is when he wall slide, if you actually look at that.
Okay. Yeah, and like, you know, like actual design-wise, his big, bulky legs aren't crashing into each other.
Yeah, you know? So exactly. As someone who's, been around people who cosplay Mega Man characters, those big, bulky arms and legs are not practical to be in at all. Just a fun fact I want to point out, there's some artwork for X6 where Zero is crossing his arms. Oh. And I know for a fact that is not possible, because Bonus Level has cosplayed Zero before in fully accurate, to-scale, proportionate armor. And the best she can do is stack her arms on top of each other, but you cannot cross them. They're just too big. And so if you look closely at this art from X6, they shrank his arm.
Oh, yeah, they did.
And also, the one tucked against his chest is like, it's just like a cylinder. There's no way it's filling up all that space.
It's like, inside of his chest.
Yeah, they definitely, just had to, flub it a little bit to make it work. But in X8, the designs are such that you could maybe feasibly, see that it would happen.
Yeah, the big bulky legs really make me think of how in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, like every time it showed X and Zero walking around, they walked around like goobers. Because it was kind of like, realistically, what these characters would walk around as, instead of something that looks good, they're just kind of hobbling.
Right, when it's a cartoon, you can kind of ignore those things, because you won't ever actually see anything clipping into it, because you just draw a line and you're like, oh, these are just two separate objects. No matter how close I stick them together, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But in 3D, you can't really get away with that, which is why I think they did make a smart decision in X8 to streamline the designs and also just make them look really cool. Yeah. Like, Zero, people say, like, they don't even notice that Zero has any design changes, and that's mostly because Zero was, like, a really good design to begin with. Mm-hmm. If you look at his legs, they're like 99% the same, but his ankle hinges are now just pure white. Yep. And they gave him back the ear cups from like Beta Zero with the flat ear cup things. Now I never put that together. That's what they did. They
changed his belt.
Yeah, they
gave him a belt. I guess
a much cooler like pelvis armor thing, which I really like. I think it looks super cool. The hexagon shape is really neat. Mm-hmm. And it looks flexible, so like it doesn't look like it would inhibit him in any way. Mm-hmm. the wrist wire, whatever you want to call that, is also a little bit more streamlined. I think that's super cool. And also, every character has this. They gave everyone a heel, so that they can kind of bend their foot a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's super cool. Zero has very minor changes to his helmet proportions, but otherwise he's exactly the same. And, of course, the one thing everyone wishes they didn't change is they made his ponytail thinner.
I was about to bring it up. I kind of prefer it. It looks nice.
I kind of like it, too. I think it looks cooler because it flows better. You can emphasize how the hair is whipping around and flowing more. Yeah. Whereas previously, it's just so big, it doesn't track his motion. Like, I can see how he's moving based on the momentum of the hair in this picture, versus when it's, like, super big and just, like, everywhere. Like, I don't know, for comparison, like, here's one of Zero dashing from, like, X4. Like, it's huge.
Yeah, it's just,
you know, like,
it's just
I get
there.
it.
It's annoying, yeah.
I don't know. I think I like the thinner ponytail. That's just me.
I like both. Like, I think they work with, you know, what they're actually trying to do. But yeah, just the thin really works for me. I think it's my favorite part of the X8 design.
Yeah, I can agree there. I don't know. I just really like the. Oh, and another thing, I forgot about it. Like, you couldn't see it in the one where he's slashing, but if you look at his vent, it's no longer like a pushed in vent that looks like a separate piece.
Oh yeah.
It's like all one flush piece now, and the boob lights are kind of like built into the chest better because like the vent kind of comes between them.
Yeah.
In a way, I don't know. It just the whole thing looks much more well designed in my opinion. It doesn't look like so many pieces are stuck together.
I really wonder
one solid piece.
Yeah, I really wonder what an X8 Z-Buster would look like.
Yeah, I wonder if it would be the one from X3, but like streamlined. I don't know what it could possibly look like. So if I was gonna imagine it, I figure it would be the silver part, but with like less rivets and stuff. And I imagine the metal part that has like that goes back on the arm would kind of pull like a Mega X Buster and go all the way back to the elbow.
Yeah.
And I think it would have like it would still keep the triangle on the forearm though. And I think maybe it would just have like a golden barrel as opposed to like gold and then like a gold band and then a silver one. I don't know, maybe something like that. And I think it would probably have the same kind of like the ears and the ankles, it would probably have the same kind of white caps for the shoulder, for the elbow joint. That's what I imagine anyway.
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe an X9.
Maybe an X9, I guess we'll have to see, because, you know, a lot of people are debating, are they going to go back to the classic X designs, or are they going to go with X8, or are they going to go with totally new designs? I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and see what they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see, what's next up on our list?
I think Mega Man Zero is coming next.
Yeah, Mega Man Zero is up next on our list of... is the top 10 Zero Countdown.
Hey!
Wait a minute. A Zero Countdown from top 10? Like, hang on now. What?
Number 7, Mega Man Zero.
Number 7. Zero in the morning. I don't know. We're stupid.
Yeah.
Don't listen to me. Here we go. I got some nice Zero concept art, a nice character sheet.
Look at that boy.
Look at this boy.
Look at
going
the little
along
boy.
with this little boy, yeah. Going along with everything that I had said about X8 Zero, the Mega Man Zero design takes that to like an extreme.
Yeah.
And I feel that the X8 Zero design was almost definitely referencing Mega Man Zero, because the wrist wire is almost exactly the same, but it's gold here. I don't know. It's just he's just a dude in a black bodysuit wearing a cool sleeveless jacket and a thong. I don't know. As you do. And he's gonna go save the world in that. I mean, how much when Weil ends up in, the home for infinite losers with all the rest of the villains that got defeated throughout the series, what are they gonna say? They'd be like, I was defeated by the progenitor of all Reploids who has infinite potential, and Wyle's gonna be like, I was beat by a kid in a thong, you know? Like, really not the kind of thing you want to talk about out loud.
Oh man, like, I've always been kind of torn on this design. Like, lately it's been more growing on me, but I think it's also the art style change. You know, like how like, across the board, everybody looks, you know, like younger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's my biggest problem with it, but as a design, like, as a whole, I like it. You know, because it's really streamlined.
I think if this, design was given a better art style,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it probably would have had, number one, a better reception, and number two, I think it probably, I don't know. I just think it would have been far less divisive, because it is a cool design. The one thing that I think I would change, which I'll even show you here, because I don't know why they didn't go with this. I think this fits much better, personally.
Okay.
So they gave him like a thong, which is almost like tradition at this point. But take a look at some of this concept art for Zero, which we'll just leave that in there because I wanted to talk about it. If you look at this, it looks a lot more like X-Series Zero, the one kind of in the middle there. And instead of giving him a thong, they just gave him like crisscrossing white belts.
Yeah.
Which, if they just gave...
Man, I really like
Vanilla Zero, those crisscrossing white belts, I think it'd be, like, spot on.
That top left helmet is really doing it for me.
The one all the way in the very far top left, or the Mythos Zero one?
The very far top left.
Yeah.
Because the red parts connect, you know, instead of like having that gap.
Right.
I like that.
I like the Zero with the belts. I think I really like that design, because when I look at it, the silhouette is still classic Zero.
Yeah. And he's got
like
green
that.
on his titties. Covered in yellow. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, still no boob lights, so I mean, you know, 0 points, but whatever. I do, but then there's also the Mythos Zero design, which, while interesting, I just think is over-designed.
Yeah, that's way too busy for me.
That's kind of the problem that I have with the version KE designs, or like True Force X, for those of you who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I love that design as its own separate thing.
Yeah.
As a figure, cool. But I would not want to see the version KE designs for X, Zero, Axel, and Sigma appear anywhere in a game, because it's just their default X1 designs, or X7 for Axel, or whatever. It's their default designs, but like over-designed.
Yeah.
It's just too much. And it's cool looking on its own.
Yeah.
Well, you were about to actually.
Yeah,
go ahead and
actually they're currently playable in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite for a purchase price of $4.99.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Whatever.
That's the concept art. I'll have to get those images so we can put them in the video.
You know, they're probably going to be costumes in Dive too. But yeah, like if X9
there's art assets for them already in the game. Like just not even like data mining. They're just in the game if you look.
Mm-hmm. But like I wouldn't really want to see that like as the X9 design, because as you said, it's like it's just their classic designs, but you know,
with lots of bits and bobs added onto it. It doesn't. Like, how X8 to me felt like an incremental improvement over the previous design. The version KE ones feel like, I don't know, it feels like a Hollywood movie version of their default designs.
Yeah.
It's like, we gotta make it look like the original designs, but we also have to make it look really, like, you know, fancy. And so it doesn't feel natural, it just feels like an homage to those characters, and not like an actual in-universe progression of the design.
Right.
You know?
But like if they remade like X3 or something and used that art style, like I could see it kind of working if the whole world based around that, but like as a going forward thing, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it would have to be one of those like standalone things.
Yeah.
You know what would work? Here's how this works. Remember that canceled first-person Mega Man X game?
Aha. Yeah.
Slip the version KE designs in that, and then you have yourself a freaking banger of a game. Because the one complaint everyone had about that game was that they thought it was ugly because they didn't like the designs. I personally thought they were not half bad. I was willing to just shut my brain off and say, okay, it's Mega Man themed. It isn't Mega Man.
Right.
But if you were to stick the version KE designs in Maverick Hunter, that canceled first-person Mega Man X game, I think that would do really well, especially since most of the enemies that we see in the gameplay are already super over-designed versions of the original. Like, there's like a Gunvolt in there. And I don't mean Gunvolt like as an Azure Striker. I mean Gunvolt is in the blue guys from the intro stage of X1 that shoot the missiles and the lightning balls. Those were enemies in Maverick Hunter, and they look really good. And so I think that would be a better use of it, rather than sticking it in X9.
I feel
like I'm getting off the topic here.
Yeah, I'm really glad we segued into that, because version KE wasn't on our list.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I had forgotten about version KE, but I'm glad that we did eventually cover him a little bit.
Did KE ever stand for something? Was that ever?
Yes. I don't remember the name of the artist. We'll put it on screen when we find it.
It was just for him. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like the first two letters of his last name.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's like, it's his version of, X0 and Axel and Sigma, apparently.
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that was,
Mega Man Zero.
Mega Man Zero.
Ramblin Reploids.
Yeah, I really like the Mega Man Zero design.
Mm-hmm.
From a lore standpoint, I really, really like it. Again, it's the art style. I'm trying to find this image
I think
that bonus level did of the X1 Zero in, it's Mega Man Zero in like the X1 style.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of like illustrates like how good of a design it can be. Because it's not a bad design, but the art style is what makes it. And I think people see like the watermelon-headed, giant doughy-eyed characters of Mega Man Zero, and it's kind of like a turnoff because it's juxtaposed with how dark and gritty the series is.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Mega Man Zero was in the X8 art style, it would be perfect.
Oh,
man. It would,
yeah.
Because you know how X8 kind of has, like, the more serious kind of look, which, by the way, I didn't get to mention this anywhere else, but if there's any Breath of Fire fans out there, for Breath of Fire 3, the artist who did all the character art for that's who did X8's art style.
Oh, hey.
So if you look at the characters from Breath of Fire 3, just do a Google search, look at their faces, you can see it in the eyes. It's exactly the same as X8. And I think he worked on Ace Attorney? I could be wrong. I think he did Ace Attorney. I'm not sure.
Crossover when?
I know! Yo, could you imagine? Like, Phoenix Wright is putting Sigma on trial. Instead of it ending in just like a brutal battle, this freaking like Phoenix is just like throwing evidence at Sigma as he tries to weasel his way out of like murder charges or something.
All the hunters are on the ground and he's got the Sigma blade raised, and then hold it!
He's just whips out all the evidence. Like, the judge has to be Isaac. The judge is Isaac, and then... Oh, it would be beautiful. I could totally see this happening. Crossover win. You're right.
But, yeah, it's definitely the art style. I think it improved as the games went on, but because like most of
it got cleaner.
Yeah, and a lot of the posing and stuff was like more serious, like he had like a real serious look in his eyes, and he was like all action posed and stuff, like on the box arts. It looked really cool. So
it's just that I think the art style itself, like the posing is really good. Like one of my favorite images ever is the shield boomerang and the chain rod, which I just sent over to you. Really good poses, super good action. The problem is, I think, just the way that the characters' faces look and their proportions. I think people were looking for something more like this, which came from Capcom versus SNK Chaos.
Yeah.
Which is, you can see how like he's a little bit taller, he's more serious, and like it's still got the same basic design. But it is drawn in a much more like mature kind of way.
And the blacks are black instead of that purpley black.
Yeah, instead of that weird dark lavender.
Yeah. I
don't know what was going on with that. But it goes to show you what it could be. And that's why, while I do love the design, I love it more from a lore standpoint than I do from an actual artistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Just because. It's like, it looks like the proper evolution of Reploids going 100 years into the future. Like, I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But the art style looks like a step back in terms of Mega Man.
Yeah.
It looks like almost like classic Mega Man, and it looks like next generation of Mega Man, but somehow drawn in like a classic Mega Man series style.
It's sort of like if there was an in-between art styles, of like if there was an in-between series of Mega Man and Mega Man X, like I could kind of see it being that art style. But with like how serious the Zero games are, like it's like got such a serious like tone throughout, and it's got a really good story, and then just like these little cute little boys and girls just saving the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, depending on some of the artwork that you look at, it really, unfortunately, it just kind of comes out looking like very kid-ish, which is a shame because it really could be like super super good, and just for some reason or another, like they just decided to go like that. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I think it missed the mark. As far as its true potential goes.
Yeah.
It could have been really, really good.
What year did 01 come out?
I want to say 2001 or 2002.
Wasn't that kind of when the sort of Moe explosion was happening? And like that was like the end look?
Oh, it might have been.
So that could have been like an influence in some way, even if it was, like, you might not have noticed, but your brain did. Like one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I say I don't like the art style, but certain other characters do benefit from that art style.
Well, I think with Zero you have an expectation in your head,
Yes. I think looking at certain other characters, I think that it works really well for them. Like, I think actually Copy X looks pretty decent. I don't know. He still looks kind of like chubby and cute though, which I guess kind of gives him almost this sort of like sickeningly sweet kind of look, which I can kind of get behind.
I'm gonna beat you up.
Yeah, but like for Cyber Elf X, he just looks too girly to me. Like, I know a lot of people call that like Princess Mega Man because he just looks like that now. I think I was expecting more like a wise scholar kind of X, which is what it looks like they were going for, but it is not what they delivered.
Well, I think it was going for like just angelic looking, because he's the world's
his
Jesus.
His face is just,
it's
but true.
Yeah.
I just think his face is too chubby. He needs to be a little bit more serious. He needs to look more, I don't know, like wise. He needs to look more like Obi-Wan Kenobi and less like straight off the farm Luke. You know what I mean? Going back to the Star Wars references. That's what I think anyway. I don't know. But yeah, it's not half bad.
Yeah,
So,
there's a good design in there. It's the Mega Man X6 of Zero designs. You know what I mean? Like it's like at its core, it's really good, but there are just factors working against it.
Yeah, I can agree there. I think there really were just like you said. There's factors working against it.
I didn't want to make this reference, but it's kind of like the Teen Titans Go type thing, like it's taking these designs and kind of dumbing them down, like in a way.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they lose some of their intimidation factor, which I think is kind of integral because they're supposed to have it. And just imagine how much more edgy and badass Mega Man Zero would be if it was a little bit more intimidating as opposed to, the kid-friendly version that we got.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can definitely make it work, but I feel like they missed a mark by not going full on into like the edginess of it. I guess maybe that's to offset how dark the series already is.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But there's also that other one that I sent, which is the Mega Man Zero, but done in like the Inafune X1 kind of art style. And you can see it's not a half bad design when put through a different art filter. He definitely looks tougher, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's not as cute and squishy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like the only thing I have a problem with is just that it looks like a jacket. Like I get what it's going for.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't know. Like if it just had a jacket, basically. If it had a slightly different shape at the bottom, instead of just kind of like flattening out.
I think Well, I think the problem is that they wanted to go with like a military look, and the jacket is totally good for that. But the problem is that you then put him in a thong. What you should have done is put him in a jacket, fine, but then give him those cool belts, because now it looks like the black bodysuit is just the rest of his uniform, as opposed to putting the thong on him, because now it's like, well, now he's got like a thong. Is that part of his armor? Like, is this? He doesn't look like a uniform anymore. You know?
I could totally see that working with just the belt.
Yeah, like in that concept design up, that we went through before. But that's just me. Like, I don't know. Mega Man Zero is filled with like, almost perfect things, and
the Band-Aid nipples still hurt.
Band-Aid nipples. I'm never going to think of it any other way. Thank you. Put that in my freaking head.
I forgot who pointed that out to me, but yeah, it's just.
Oh boy. So, this next section...
Copy X, what are we doing on the bed? Pomp.
Oh, no! Stop it. Stop.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Please. You know what? It's your show. You do what you want, man.
It's our show.
Oh. I don't know if I want to be associated with Ramblin Reploids. These are the kind of jokes we're making. No, I'm kidding. Jesus. We're gonna move on to a section, our second to last section, I think, or no, third to last section. Third to last section, which Sonic fans around the world will be familiar with, and that is recolors. So we're gonna be looking at some of the various recolors of Zero.
It looks like this episode was just too big for one part. Can our Ramblers survive talking about Zero's recolors? And what else could possibly be in store? Find out on the next exciting episode of Ramblin Reploids. Hey, thanks for watching. Big thanks to Dano for sponsoring this episode, and thanks to Dornor and the rest of our channel members for the continued support. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you next time for the conclusion. Until then.